Okie dokie. Well, welcome everyone to the Public Practice Accountants Club on Clubhouse, where public practitioner, thought leaders, industry specialists, and accountants just like you discuss hot topics in public practice and how they go about navigating the public practice landscape all around the world. So fundamentally, public practice has the same principles, dynamics, and challenges no matter where we are in the world. We might have some different tax seasons, busy periods, and legislation, but at the core, we are very much the same. So, this morning, we are talking about cybersecurity and how to de risk now with our special guest, Graham Chee. So, I'll just quickly introduce myself. I know we know most people around the traps. So, I am Linda Steppens. I am an accountant, an author, and an introvert, and I've been hanging around accounting now for just on 30 years. And where I spend my days is helping accountants who already do advisory services to make it a ongoing, consistent income stream for their business. So that's where I enjoy hanging out and doing. And of course, my co-host this morning, Kylie Baxter. Good morning.
Good morning, Linda. Yeah, look, I'm really looking forward to today's discussion because for those of you who don't know me, I have a public practice firm here on the Gold Coast. And I guess our point of difference is that we say we're a truly digital firm as far as we only work online with clients. We don't deal with any paper-based documents, so it's all digital. And obviously over the last, sort of 5 years, cyber has become a real issue. And I know I'm taking the right, some right steps, but how do I know that they're all there? Because we're only experts in the field that we're experts in, and I truly believe in staying in our lane. So I'm really pleased to have Graham here with us today. Graham, do you want to introduce yourself to everyone quickly?
Yeah, thanks, Linda and Kylie. I'm an accounting in public practice for the past 20 years, and yes, it's showing. And one of the things that we've been very keen to do is move away from the transaction part. Right? We do the tax, we do the advice, but what we've really found is that our clients are really wanting some help on cybersecurity. Like business advice and cybersecurity go hand in hand. Right? You're already doing that now as advisory. It's just that they don't know that you actually know about tech, so you can help. So that's why we took that journey.
I think too, what can happen, Graham, is as an accountant in practice too, I think sometimes we don't know that we know about tech. We take it all for granted, I think, a little bit, that, just what we do is what we do. But our clients can really benefit from a lot of our knowledge. And I find that generally just with delivering advisory in the first place, we underestimate really our knowledge and our skills. So I think that's a very good point you make there. But we know that cybersecurity is a huge deal across the accounting landscape at the moment, across the whole world landscape. But just look at everything going on here in Australia at the moment. The pandemic definitely transformed how we do business. And while the opportunities from work from anywhere and collaborating digitally and all of that with clients has opened tons of new doors for us, it's also opened a lot more risk. So cybercrime is definitely on the rise, and I think regulators are also getting involved more and more now. Plus, like you just said, Graham, clients are looking for guidance with their own digital uptakes and how that we can actually help them with that. So I think the place for us to start is a little bit of, Graham, help us understand cybersecurity. If we're in an accounting firm, we own an accounting business, what do we need to be aware of with regard to cybersecurity? What is it first, really?
Well, I think the first part, and this is probably why we started adding this to a function. We were already doing cybersecurity and tech. Everything that you do now, the combination of dealing with the ATO through the portals, doing it, working from home, working through outsourced services. You're already doing this. So cyber is just a new word. If I took cyber away and just made it tech as though pre-2010, you would go, oh, okay, I already do that. But cyber is a buzzword. Cyber is a real buzzword. So
Yeah,
I think
okay.
what you really need to consider is what you are interacting with outside and knowing what you actually have inside the fence. Like whether it's your computers, whether your server, whether your cloud, whether you have people work from home. One of the things that we take a lot of notice of is the mobile device security. And people say, well, why do you worry about that for? And I said, well, if they get hold of my MyGov ID, I'm pretty much in trouble. And
Yeah.
I'm
And
pretty
your
much in
authenticator,
trouble
right?
because, yeah, it has the authenticator, but it also has that phone, also has your multi-factor authentication for Xero or MYOB or QuickBooks. It has your mail. It has all your contact lists, everything. And I think that's where you need to start. I don't think you need, like, I give you the scenario like your house. You have locks on your door, you have windows that you shut, and you have everything like that. You have a fire extinguisher or a fire alarm. But nothing beats having OCD. And I think that's the sort of thing. You go around and you double check that the door is shut. You go around. That is the same thing in public practice. You need to be a bit like that.
Yeah, okay. So you just mentioned there, I like that change the term, cybersecurity, tech security, hand in hand. Just be careful. It's like locking your house. I like that idea, or securing your house. Mobile devices, very important, because yeah, we underestimate what we're running around holding in our hands every day, don't we? And the information that is in there. And actually, I was speaking to a practitioner yesterday. Her phone got ran over and she was at the shop desperately trying to get it all back online, and was having a meltdown because of the passwords and things and everything that was in there. And you know, she needed them. So we rely on this more than we realize, I think, and only when it's taken away you don't do you actually realize.
Well, I
Yeah.
think
So
the other part with that, Linda, is being in practice. I know how hard it is to restore if I lose my phone, to prove my ID
Yeah.
back to the ATO for them to reset my Gov ID. And that is time. That is time for it. And I think with cybersecurity, yes, suggest you check your that you have anti-malware, which is just everything. Check your passwords. Yes, it's everything. Check it's kind of like your flight checklist that you go through. And like we created flight checklists for ourselves as well. But it's more than just that. It's just making people aware of things for it. And then you can actually hand that on to your client, because like we experienced that last year where a client says, we've got a ransomware attack. And I said, but your IT guy is handling it. They said they have no idea. I can't pay my staff. I pay my staff weekly. I can't pay my staff. Ever had 800 staff pretty upset at you that you can't log in and do the payroll since it's all linked up to single touch payroll?
Yeah, that's a bit nasty.
Pretty tough.
can I ask a practical question about the
Yeah.
mobile phone security? So obviously, you know, back in the day, no one had their mobile phones on their desks. It was all work, work, work. And now that's something we can't avoid because everybody needs that digital authenticator through MyGov or even their Google authenticator with all of their, you know, MyGov and Xero, like you said, Graham. So what practical steps can we take in public practice to make sure that we're educating our staff, but also maybe setting some constraints about, what they should and shouldn't be doing, given that that gives anyone access to our client and our personal data?
That's a really good question. And the reason is that we trust our staff without fail. But what I do recommend is you try and anti-malware for your phone.
Okay.
That's one part of it. The second part, and this is going to cause this is a big debate at the moment. If you want a controversy, this will be it.
We love controversy.
We do. We say controversial things all the time, Graham. So hit us with it. Yes.
If you want to protect your business further, you need to decide whether you are actually having the staff have the authenticator on their own phone, or the practice is providing that device.
Yes.
Now, the reason is the privacy of when you install things on that staff person's device. Because if you, just say you do have a breach and you want to erase that person's phone from remotely, you can erase it. And they're going to be pretty upset that you erased all the photos off there too.
Yes. Yeah.
And what we do is we have our ones separate. We've given our staff their own device that has the Authenticator app on there, and whether it's the MyGov or the Google Authenticator, then it is our responsibility to ensure that that's backed up and has the right security on there as well. In the event that something happens that we need to be able to erase that phone, it is that should be on there. Because when you have a hybrid device where the staff have that responsibility, they also have a number of other apps on there. And I don't know how many people have read the terms and conditions of when you download an app.
No one reads the terms and conditions, Graham.
Yeah, but you're supposed to read the terms.
I know, but no one reads the terms and conditions. I want the app now. I'm just going to download it.
Yeah, but the part is that you need to understand what it is accessing when you download it.
Yeah.
Now, if it accesses your contacts or your email, you have a bit of an issue there, because most people have their email attached to it and they have their private emails attached to it on.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to that
answers it, Kylie, and that's why we do it.
Yeah, no, that totally does. So best practice would be that you have company-owned phones that are provided to your staff that you have full control over. Obviously, depending on the size of the firm, though, and actually for the size of any firm, that could be quite a stretch from a budget point of view for some practitioners. Would it simply be enough to know that you're in control of cancelling, people's access to, let's use MyGov, for example, because that portal access is a big one. You know that you can easily go in there and cancel that staff members. I guess what I'm asking is, it's not so much when staff leave or that sort of thing. It's if something happened, if they were to lose their device, or, should we be having some sort of policy in place where staff actually do have to notify us if something happens to that device?
That is part of it. You have to have policies. You need to know what the policies are. You need to know how it integrates. You also need to have an attitude that you're not going to be kind of really angry that the person has told you that they've lost something, because
it's about the why.
Don't get angry with me. I'm coming here to tell you I've lost it, rather than be scared. I know that there is some clients that we've dealt with that the staff were actually, when they were interviewed in the end, when they lost their device, they said, "Why were you afraid to tell us?" They said, "Well, you penalise me. You penalise me. Don't penalise me for telling you the truth. And they said, how long ago was that I lost it? A week ago. So it's also a management's change of attitude too towards it.
100%. And the malware that you were referring to for mobile phone devices, can you give some examples of that or recommendations of that?
For the anti-malware, like you can use ESET, you can use Norton, you can use malware bytes with it. You can use McAfee as well. There's a number. There's a number of it. Pretty standard groups that you can buy. However, be careful which one you buy. You can buy ones that are actually individual, that are managed individually by the phone, or managed centrally, which is the business that then controls the policies. Asking anybody that today, you will get, if you ask 10 people, you'll get 10 different answers because they do not know which one they have. Even the phones on your desktop, you don't know which one you have.
So, Graham, is it that we don't pay quite enough close attention to some of these things? Is that what it is? I mean, you know, I was just thinking early this morning that as a business owner, as an accounting business owner, there's so many things we need to be thinking about. We're thinking about getting our client work done and everything like that. And we're thinking about marketing our practice and our staff and communicating and leadership and a whole lot of other things and running a profitable business and cyber security as well, or tech security as you described it. Is it just that it's an area that we need to pay a little bit more attention to, do you think, in general?
I think you need to pay attention to it. I don't think you should make it your whole goal.
Yeah.
I'll probably get criticised for this because of even the Optus case and everything else. But it is part of just your general risks of doing business. It is part of your general risk. You wake up in the morning and you have the general risk of you logging in. That's your first experience of the cyber risk or tech risk. As soon as you log in and look at your phone in the morning, that is your first risk. And you've just got to make it as part of your normal business process, because I don't see this as a cost at all. I don't see cyber and the tech as a cost at all. I actually see it as an investment, because even with our practice, we've been so fortunate is that we've done well over the last 2, 3 years, 4 years of implementing cybersecurity, because we talk to our clients. We've avoided them having cybercrime. The same thing that you mentioned right at the beginning. Like, I'll give you an example. Do you know how easy it is to replicate somebody's invoice today?
Yeah, easy as.
Very, very easy, because I can just buy MYOB or Xero and just create another number, create that, send the invoice and say, okay, it looks exactly the same as that invoice. You tweak the bank account number. We prevented one client only because we had a general chat with him and say, I do cyber, you should check this, just in passing. He was about to press the button and give $750,000 for tip fees, for example. And you know why he picked it up? He says, you know, Graham told me just to be careful if anybody changes their bank account number on my invoice. But you know, like, having just cloud doesn't protect you. It's common sense that protects you, and you've got to have that conversation.
So, talking about conversations, I mean, from this perspective of this conversation, I suppose we're talking about the accounting business itself. So, having conversations and or training, if you want to call it that, with team members. You know, what should we be talking about on a regular basis with our team members when it comes to cyber or tech?
Well, I think it should be that the conversation is to be aware of it. It is definitely to be aware of what the scam is going to be, or the scam that they're going to try and impose on you. like whether it's GST crime or whether it's identity or something like that. You've got to have that conversation. But you also, the the person that's giving the training or the manager or the owner of the practice, he has to listen to staff. He has to listen to staff because it's not going to be the manager that is automatically going to get the, I guess, the cyber attack. It's the person that answers the support at your business or your sales or your information email.
Yeah, good point.
That's the one they're going to attack. They're not going to attack, they're going to attack the weakest point. It's been known to happen. And like we ask now, how many email addresses do you have in your firm and how many domain names do you have? And you go, I don't know. Do you know where they all are and who's using them within social media? Don't know. I think they're the sort of things that you need to be doing in training to be able to have it not as formal training, but what you're needing to do is a skills update within or learning update as general, because the retention of recall in formal cyber training finishes about 3.5 minutes after you walk out of the room. So it's not very high. It's not very high.
Yeah.
But if you have it as just general conversation in the day, it becomes, oh, okay, I saw something like that, or I was aware of that. Oh, hey, I better check. They're the sort of things you need to be able to be asking about.
So I know that Kylie and I talk a lot, Graham, about communication, planning, talking about these things all of the time. So making it part of our everyday. Kylie, from your perspective at IQ, what are some of the things I'd imagine, because you, like you said, you're a fully digital firm. I imagine this is, you and your team would be fairly aware of what's going on in this environment.
Well, yeah, but it is a constant battle because we only know what we know. So, we take advantage of any training that we can find about these sorts of topics because it is really about educating everyone and just bringing it to the forefront of their mind. It goes from the simple, don't click on that email attachment, you don't recognize that sender, right through to your device, like we discussed. One of the things that I'd really like to ask you, Graham, is what your take is on how to further protect your business and your clients and personal data when people are working remotely. So, I think a lot of people are even doing the BYOD, which I think offers some complexities. You're a bit more protected if you've got full control over that device. But what are your suggestions to, help protect in that space?
Well, we all went through the BYOD. We went that, and you do need to have security on that. But you need to have anti-malware on your desk. You need to check your password to standard things with it. But what you do need, and this is a very different one, as accountants, we talk about inventory, and then you say, oh, you give me an inventory list. So we automatically print off the depreciation schedule and give it to you. 99% of the case, 99.9%. But I'm not asking that inventory list. I'm asking you to tell me what is the hardware that you have out there and the software that is on there, on the devices. You need to know that at the BYOD. Okay. You also need to know whether they're working remote or working from home. Yeah. That is a big difference. There is a huge difference because everybody jumps on free Wi-Fi, and that is the perfect hack situation with it. that is the perfect way to cause problems. So you need to know whether the remote access is working that way with it, but also what you're accessing to, because you have cloud applications, like a fully digital office, what other accesses do you have of those cloud software, and who has the passwords and who has the admin, but also who actually has the shared password, because everybody shares their application password.
No, they don't.
I'm
a psycho about passwords.
Yeah, I know a lot of people do.
You're talking to the converted.
But they're the sort of things
true,
you need to know. You need to know that. And who's got the passwords, or how do you control that password and access?
Yeah, and I think that's such a fair point. Like, I had a crackdown in the last couple of months over clients with shared credit cards. You know, it might be just the directors that have the credit cards, but somehow some of the staff are using it because they know the numbers to charge, or it sits in the front drawer so everyone knows that they need to charge something. Like, even just that in itself is such a risk, because people can, you know, Google prompts you, do you want to save this credit card in your browser?
Yeah.
No thanks. And you can turn that off globally, obviously, but these are the things that we need to be thinking about.
Yeah, I think that this comes down to what Linda and yourself do, with some of the advice. All you have to really do is think of your SWOT analysis that they taught you at uni. You only have to think of what your weakness is in the business and what your threats are. You know what your strengths are. So you will actually be able to identify that really quickly. So it's like business planning for cybersecurity, and you'll know these questions are, and answers. Like I can give you 900 questions if you really wanted to, but I want to give you 10 different answers to be able to say, this is what you should do tomorrow. Because what is the big issue is that now with Optus and a few other ones, like, even though the Optus breach is out there and they think they got your mobile and your name and address and everything like that, those details have already been out there for the last 3 or 4 years. Like, you can buy a driver's license out there for $2, $3. Like, they already had a hack a year ago with the New South Wales government on the driver's license. So it isn't as though you change your name and address, your name and date of birth too often. But the big one that you do need to be careful is what is the information that makes up your identification when you go to quote something. Now, that is the big one. The piece that's missing out of it all is the TFN and a document ID number. And this is why we talk about the accountant being he is the key to the whole puzzle. He owns the key to the puzzle.
Or she, Graham.
Because he is one of trust, or she. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
They are.
There we go.
They are the puzzle. They are
That's
the
so
key
true.
puzzle.
Particularly at the moment when most people are still assisting their clients with director identification numbers.
Yes.
That's real key information that they need, because even if they've got MyGov, most people are only still on basic security. So one of the things that getting DINs is forcing people to do is get to that higher level of security in MyGov, which is great. But then once you do that, well, A, what documentation do you need to do that? And then B, once you do that, to get that director's identification number, you do need things like TFN, some sort of reference number from the notice of assessment, those sorts of things. And practically, clients are just ringing ad hoc because we've told them they need to get this DIN and going, can you give me blah, 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 blah. But how do you identify clients? How do you identify that that's the right person to give that information to? And it comes through this series of questions and whatnot. But yeah, I think this even comes back to that identifying clients and keeping their records, and how do you make sure that all of that's done properly? And it feels like, from a practitioner point of view, just a massive can of worms. And how do you keep the cap on?
Well, yeah, I guess I read about that. It's like pushing the toothpaste out of a tube, and then you're trying to put it back in the bottle. It's a tough job.
Yeah.
And I think this is where the hackers have it right. They only have to get one of these things right. We have to get thousands of these combinations right. It's like we explain it to clients, like, oh, is there a one step approach to it, or is there a step, 10 steps that I can take? Like the Rubik's Cube is a perfect example. Most people can solve this in like a 3x3 cube very quickly. Like, kids are doing it in a minute or something like that, 45 seconds. Add 4 and 5 to it, the combinations become a lot bigger. And as soon as the accountant stepped into cloud and other approaches, and like even with your business, Kylie, the cloud is just somebody else's computer.
Yeah,
that's technically all it is, and you just need to know what they're doing of security, and that's like your supplier risk. Like, when you have it inside your office, you can see it, you can touch it, it's there. But do you know what those other businesses are doing with your data? That's a question.
absolutely. And I think that's where you have to have a good relationship, with your IT provider to ask and be confident to ask them those silly questions, Okay, so practically, Graham, could you give us maybe your top 3 tips? We've already got one cracker, which is, mobile phone security. But can you give us your top 3 tips for practitioners dealing with this?
I think that their number one, like, I'm not going to go through about malware and everything and anti-malware and that. You can read that. I think the number 2 tip out of it all is to understand what you actually have out there. You need to know what the picture looks like for yourself, whether it's tablets, mobile devices, old computers, even. Not that anybody has old computers, but old computers are a real headache with it. So you need to understand that inventory list, not your ATO inventory list. You need to understand your equipment list for software, hardware, everything. Now,
so before, Graham, you included email addresses in that too, yes?
Oh,
Emails,
everything.
domains.
That's it. That's inventory to you. That is inventory to you.
Okay.
So kind of the accountant needs to change their mindset.
Okay. That's a great tip.
The third one is we need to be able to ask people. We need to just talk to people with it. It's time to think that we're not accountants anymore. We're kind of like the gatekeeper. We are the trusted gatekeeper with it. The role becomes what happens in the event of something happening. Now, you need to be the client is going to be, if anything happens, or even before it happens, you're already having that conversation with them about accounting and tax and everything like that. You just need to have the conversation. 10 minutes. Oh, did you look at your HR? Did you look at your payroll records? Did you look at something else? Oh, why do I need to do that? Oh, just in case that you can pay people in the event of a cyber incident, because everything lately is all about cyber fraud. The cyber fraud, like at the CPA conference that I attended in April, I think it was, April, May. The biggest one was about GST fraud. Like it was $2 billion. And I think if the ATO has got it at $2 billion, there's probably $3 billion that they've probably missed. So that's the sort of thing that's much harder to identify than, like, they're not going to ransomware an accounting business. They're not going to ransomware an accounting.
No, they're not interested in that, are they? They're interested in the information.
No, it's they're interested in being able to get into your information when they want, because they can cherry pick anything. Just think, if you've got a business with 200 clients, and those 200 clients each have 10 staff, 20 staff, it's a pretty big record set to be able to access, like in terms of their TFNs, their records, their payroll, their all that sort of information, bank accounts, superannuation. You have everything. You have everything technically to, like, that's why mortgage brokers, financial planners have been trying to bash on the door and become relationships to accountants, because we have all the information. We have technically every bit of information to go and get a loan. We have every bit of information to be your financial plan, and we have an automatic pre-bill for the tax return information. Not many people have that access to that automatic pre-bill.
No, 100%. And now, obviously, coming on and saying that you need to identify all your clients, which is a good thing. We also have all of their personal documents as well. So, or access to, or we viewed them. So I think it becomes a real, like I was saying before, can of worms for practitioners that just want to do what they do best. But I think that this is a real topic that can't be overlooked, because it isn't about, if it will happen, it will happen, and it might not be to us, but it could be to our clients, and in turn that affects us.
It's probably already happening. Like an example of why I encourage a lot of people to check with it and start is we run our solutions here with it. We tested some software to understand how fast this will encrypt your data or access your data. It will take 14 seconds. 14 seconds.
So great.
It's 14,000 encrypted files a minute.
So Graham, instead of, I think, particularly around this point is the changing of our attitude as accountants to realise it's
got to be an attitude change.
Yeah,
it must be an attitude change first. That first
and
not
foremost.
A tech problem.
Yeah. Okay. So
it's
first,
not a tech problem anymore.
No. So it's understanding that we are the gatekeepers of this information. That all this information is so very valuable and at risk, and there's people out there trying to get access to it, and that also we should not view this as proof of identity and all of this other stuff that's coming our way now. It's like, oh, now I got to do that, now it's another cost. You've got to look at investing it in protecting the information and the gatekeeper role that you have. That's what you're saying to us, isn't it?
Well, also, you have to invest your bit of time with it. You must invest your time, because if your client, if you don't believe in it, and then you can't convey that to your client, and they suddenly get into trouble. Like, just say your top 10 clients or top 20 clients, if it's 80-20 rule, and they're the 20 clients, and they get into trouble because of an attack, and your business will suffer reputational damage because you're part of that, and they won't be able to pay your bill. then it becomes a chain reaction. So what I encourage people to look at, or practices, or even businesses, just keep aware of it. Like there's no right or wrong answer. And if you're looking for a checklist, they're just best recommendations or best practices. The other part of it is that most of these hackers that are out there, they're young kids, they're older kids, they're not always nation state actors, they're cyber criminals, whatever you want to call them. But one of the things is that they already have your checklist out there. Don't you think that they're looking at, anti-malware, like they already have it.
Well, they're one step ahead, aren't they? That's what they're doing, is they're looking at everything to try and beat us in this scenario, really, I suppose, aren't they? That's their main focus. Whereas we're looking at it from, I got to get all my work done. I just, like Kylie was saying, I just leave me alone. I just want to do what I do best, But that's not going to cut it in this world or this future that we now find ourselves operating in, is it really?
I think what needs to be understood is what we do best. Is what we do best as an accountant is be the trusted person for them to come to.
Yeah.
Like, don't forget, we are not purely we are accountants, tax people front and center.
Yes.
But I am sure Kylie hears a lot of things about crying on a shoulder or something like that, or personal problems or other things, or what sort of car should I get, or hey, I'm buying a new house, or I'm doing something else. Hey, you're already the advisor. One more thing is not going to make much difference. Like, it's like if accountants don't think that they're being asked other questions. Like, I get asked questions about everything. Everything out there. Cyber is just another thing on the agenda. Have it in your arsenal, have it in your little quiver, in your arrow box, or your bullets in your thing, just to be ready to be able to address it, because that'll make accountants stand out from the next accountant, or makes your competition, or what it is, hey, my accountant told me about that. My accountant told me about that. They're the right people to know, or not to bag people with it, but it does need, the conversation can be held at this level, at the accountant's level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it can start with simple things like sharing ATO scans on your social media. It promotes conversation, some newsletter information, as well as your direct conversations with your clients. And I fully support the same thing.
I'd be careful with that, Kylie. I'd be really careful about the scams on your social media pages. You are setting yourself up for these guys to bring you down.
Well, more so it's about the ATO and sharing that information,
I went out there and I tried to do that, and I have never seen so many brute force attacks happen because of that. Like, I don't want to put up the fireworks and say, come look at me. I'll just try and keep it a little bit quiet, defend where I can, protect where I can, but I don't want to drag attention that, hey, I'm going to block you guys for whatever you do. Like, I think the ATO is doing a good job with it. There's more that could be done about it, but it needs to be a conversation rather than a stick.
I just don't think you can reach all of your clients that way. I think that this is a really large, and depending on the kind of firm you run and where people get their information from you, some firms are very email-based, some firms will only talk to their clients on the phone, some firms do the newsletters, some firms are very social media-based.
All of that is great.
Regardless, this is a topic that does
Yeah.
is meant to be
Yeah,
shared.
but not on social media. The only reason on social media is that, and look, it's up to everybody with it. We get it out in a newsletter. We get it out in an email. We get it out in conversation.
Yeah.
But we just backed off social media with especially Facebook.
I want to just go back to this trust thing, you know, as and our view as accountants around being trusted professionals, and you know, I just want to really challenge accountants out there, or challenge the industry as a whole, because I think, you know, we put a lot of stock in being the trusted professional. And what I'm hearing from, you know, this morning is very much that our attitude needs to change. And Kylie and I talked a lot about an image problem that accounting, or particularly public practice, has, that we just do tax returns and you know, financials and BASs and those various different things. And it really starts with us and how we feel about what we do. So to think you're just an accountant, we haven't been that for years. Like you said, Graham, you know, I've been in accounting for 30 years, and 20 years ago, you know, when I was early in my practice years, I would get those questions exactly like you said. What health insurance should I have? What should I do about my son who's driving around like a maniac and not listening to me? You know, what my wife, my husband, all this stuff. And I used to joke about that. I went off and did a psychology degree so I could actually understand what I was doing across the desk. So if we've ever thought that we're just accountants who just do tax returns, well, we've been wrong from the start, haven't we?
I think we have to start there, though. I think we have to start there, because that's the thing that has created trust. It's just that the question then becomes, what more can you do? Like, I think the days of just transactional accounting is coming to an end. It still will be there. That's how the requirement is. The businesses now very much, there is very few businesses that are just one company. Many of them have multi-sorted companies, multi-sorted structures, trusts, whatever it is, self-managed superannuation funds. So you'll become more blended, is if you like. There's no one size fits all. It depends on everybody's personality. But I think trying to get away from just that cyber is a tech risk, talk about it just as a risk, talk just about the weaknesses and the threats to your business.
Yeah, okay.
As a thing, because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to solve their fears. Like you solve a client's fears. You address their fears. You address their problems. Like, they don't come to you every time they have a win. They come to you every time they have a problem. And,
yes, inherent in our business, isn't it?
And I think that's what you need to change as your advisor with it. I think you hit it on the head. Like, you needed to be a psychologist to start off with, but not many psychologists go into accounting.
I know a few, funnily enough, but it certainly doesn't hurt, Graham. I can tell you that. But yeah, you're right. It's changing of our attitude. So I think, in summarising everything that we've heard this morning, it's very much, firstly, you know, cyber security or cyber is a buzzword, like you said. It is very much about tech, and you just need to really think about it as being a weakness or a threat. And we deal with weaknesses and threats for when we're helping our business clients every single day. So whether that's our own or whether that's our clients, that's really what we're talking about here, and to not get wrapped up into that word cyber, right?
Yeah, I think you shouldn't get wrapped up in cyber at all. I think that it is just a tool. It's made our jobs, difficult jobs, easier. Like if you go back, you go back in the earlier days before all this cloud, and you said, well, what was my biggest risk of when I have a paper-based records? Well, it was either that it was water damaged, I couldn't find it,
lost.
it was in an archive, lost, burned, whatever.
Yeah.
Now,
and the box got thrown out with the rubbish instead of, yes, oh my gosh.
Now today's part is, hey, I backed it up instead. Well, do you know what you backed up and where it is?
And how to access it? Yes.
Well, that is a real big thing.
Yes,
and that leads
it is. Yes.
I guess your point about the situation with the inventory list. How many of us have actually done a thing to see, can we recover?
Can you restore
everything when we're in a panic? When we are in a panic mode, because what order do you bring it back up in?
So I think Kylie,
that is tough.
Yeah, that's exactly, because it's never quite the same, you know, but Kylie, you mentioned that about being really good friends with your IT people, yes?
Well, yeah, having a good relationship with them, because you only know what you know. So you need to feel confident to ask silly questions. And I think, you know, generalization, of course, but as accountants, we can be a little bit save face like, you know, you don't want to ask the questions that you might not know the answer to. And then, but I think in this space, if you're really unsure, particularly about your domain names and your cloud services and how the backup works and where that is and you need to be asking those things.
And or get some help to do that inventory. I think, you know, your number 2 tip there, Graham, about the inventory, it's not the depreciation schedule. It very much is this tech inventory involving passwords, backup, who has access to all of these things. What does that look like? Because if you don't have a central place where this is or understand what this is, how on earth are you ever to mitigate a risk? You know, so I think that's a great point.
It's impossible with it. Like, it's like Kylie and your point just then together is that, just say that like we're afraid to ask that question. It's pretty similar when a client comes to us and asks a question like, are they afraid when you talk to them about GST or tax? Like, well, I didn't know you didn't know. Like the known unknowns or the unknown unknowns. The whole thing about it is that we're expecting both of it to go together. Like you're expecting people to know it. And I think that's the biggest weakness, that nobody is wanting to ask the question with it because they think we're accountants. Well, accounting didn't end by...
No.
We have more tech today in this office than probably what we've ever had.
Yeah.
And cost is a big asset. It's also a big preventer for new entrants into the market. Starting up new businesses and practices.
Absolutely. So I think it's, don't get wound up in the cybersecurity mania. And if we think that accounting starts and stops with tax returns, well, we're very wrong. It never has really been. Your number 1 tip is about devices, and particularly mobiles, Graham, that we talked about. So the mobile devices, who's got access to that, what's happening on the phones, do we have control over those, are they protected? Number 2, we've talked about quite extensively, which was your inventory, and not the depreciation schedule, that it's much more than that. And of course, 3, a general attitude change around this information. We are a trusted professional, and we do have control over a lot of very important information that some more nefarious people out there are trying to get access to. So we are a bit of, I know in your mind, Graham, you feel like accountants will be very much targeted for that information in the future.
I think they're already being targeted.
Yeah,
I think they're already being targeted. like I think the cybercrime is already here. I think that the GST crime, the GST fraud that already happened, that was like, that's not somebody that walks off the street and does that sort of crime of saying GST. They really knew exactly the sort of limits that the ATO were going to be looking at of refunds before they asked for all the invoices.
They're very smart.
Process. They knew what they had to do. They knew the software that they had to generate the invoices in. They knew a lot of things about the accounting profession, and it's only from their intelligence that they've gone in and learnt it. And I think there was a case down here in New South Wales that somebody had gone in and stolen computers out of an accounting practice, and they're still 2 years still getting fictitious tax returns lodged and activity statements lodged, because you don't, like, how often have you ever tried to change your ABN and tax file number? It's very, very tough.
Yeah, it's difficult
to prove otherwise. Like, it's kind of like you have to die to get the number.
Well, I think even then it's problematic. We've seen plenty of, issues around that as well, Graham. But I think too, the final thing that I certainly want to draw attention to is the conversations. So, and the saving face that you talked about, Kylie, it's not about knowing everything. It's simply about having a conversation, because collectively, who knows what you might just find out or you might just learn by at least opening up the conversation. So whether that's with your team, with your IT providers, with your clients, other business owners, that are perhaps in a friendship group or something like that, I think we can just start talking about this. I think that's the real weakness, or a weakness in bringing down cybercrime, if anything, is if we just continue to talk about it and slowly learn, everybody learns that it's not this mythical thing that has to be battled. I think we can start to break that down. Kylie, for you, what's the good summary from this morning?
No, I think you gave a perfect summary, Linda.
Thank you.
And we have chatted for ages today on this very important topic. Thank you so much, Graham, for your expertise and being so willing to share.
Absolutely.
I know that there's quite a few people watch this and play back. So where is the best way for them to reach you? Is that on LinkedIn?
They can reach out on LinkedIn with it. But we're always looking at different ways. But one I'll leave you with one thing that this is for every accountant, this is for every business. Don't think that you know everything about cyber. Just forget it. Just forget it. And if somebody tells you they can do something and it's 100%
foolproof
risk, like there's no risk to it, forget that one too, because you would be surprised of how much you can learn about just by generally talking to people with it.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily just the people that you need to talk to. I add cyber to our business and with advisory, and we do accounting and tax. But I talk to a lot of people to try and get ideas, and even the tech people don't know what us accountants do. Sometimes I don't know what I have to do either in the day. But I think you need to be able to just reach out, talk to people, chat with people, listen to what they're saying. You might only get one idea, but that one idea is all the things that you'll need just to protect your business.
Absolutely. I think it's all about communication and collaboration, Graham. I think that just goes without saying with a lot of topics.
There's a lack of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So thank you We very much appreciate your time. We've talked right to the top of the hour. And look, thank you everybody for tuning in. And of course, you know that you can find Kylie and I definitely around LinkedIn. And we're having a little break for a few weeks. So we're going off and having, well, I'm having some holidays is what I'm doing. So on Wednesday, the 9th of November, we will be back, of course, right through to the Christmas break then. And we're going to be talking about how can you tell when a leader walks the talk. So that's our next topic. So be sure to tune in.
Okay. And Linda, the reason for your holidays is because you've got a big day this time next week. You're getting married. And on behalf of your Clubhouse family, I just want to share how excited that we are for you. And really enjoy your lovely wedding day and your very well-deserved break.
Thank you. I very much will. I'm in that nice zone now where everything's done and I've just got to wait for it to happen. So I'm getting very excited. Thank you, Kylie. And yeah, look, we'll see everybody in just a few weeks' time. Thank you again, Graham. Have a great week, everyone.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.